Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Tempe City Council Work Study Session Agenda. Item number 1 is call to order. Council meetings can be watched in real time via Cox Cable Channel 11 and at tempe.gov/tempe11. Members of the public may also attend the meeting virtually through Microsoft Teams. Guidelines for conduct at City Council meetings are on the table near the entrance for those in attendance at tonight's meeting. We're now going to play a video with the proper protocol for ensuring the appropriate conduct at City Council meetings.
The City of Tempe welcomes public comment at this time. Disruptive behavior will not be allowed. Continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. We need to be able to hear everyone in the room. Behavior that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of any city council meeting is not helpful and is not permitted. This includes behavior both inside and outside of the council chambers. Should individuals inside the council chambers become disruptive so that city business is not able to be conducted, the mayor will first ask that the individuals allow city business to be completed. There will be time for public comment during the call to the audience portion of the meeting. If no cooperation, the mayor will issue a verbal warning and let them know that the continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. If there is still no cooperation, the mayor will issue a second verbal warning and let them know that the continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. If there is no cooperation after asking and 2 verbal warnings, then the mayor will ask security officers to remove only those individuals who are causing the disruption. Security personnel should not engage in any way, but only escort them from the council chambers. If individuals refuse to leave, security personnel shall warn them that they are trespassing and that the next step will be arrest by a Tempe police officer. Tempe officers may have to arrest if individuals refuse to leave. Charges for trespass and disorderly conduct may apply, as well as other charges. Should anyone be asked to be removed, the mayor will recess the meeting.
Thank you so much. Next up, item number 2, announcements for the mayor and or city manager. I've got a couple of announcements this evening. And so actually, can the council please join me in the front for the first announcement? Yes, I can. Mr. Wolf. Vice Mayor Garland just asked if I have walk-up music. I most certainly do not. That is only for State of the City. All right, I also want to note, too, that Councilmember Adams is also on the call. She's participating virtually this evening, so I wanted to make sure to note her attendance. So the first item here is item 2A, recognition of City Clerk Assistant Nicole Harding on her Certified Municipal Clerk CMC designation. Nicole. So I'm proud to announce that Nicole Harding, one of our city clerk assistants, has earned the Certified Municipal Clerk designation from the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. This prestigious certification requires at least 2 years of IIMC membership, education, and significant municipal experience. Nicole achieved this honor in just over 2 years since joining the city clerk team in August of 2022, which is a testament to her dedication and hard work. So please join me in congratulating Nicole on this outstanding achievement and for bringing distinction to the city clerk's office as well as the city of Tempe. Nope. No. So council, if we can scatter for one quick second, I want to see if the clerk's team can come up and also take a photo with Nicole as well. That includes these wonderful people who are sitting here too. Or are we sitting down here? Yeah, let's just stay down. One more thing.
All right, everybody big smiles. 1, 2, 3. One more like that. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations. Come back.
All right, so, one more thing that I actually forgot. In my haste to actually do this, I didn't bring the actual proclamation. Luckily, it was only up there. All right, so next up here, we have the Advocates for Children's Week proclamation. So I want to make sure that I can read that here as well. And this proclamation reads, whereas the general, and actually, hold on, before, we've got the Tempe Women's Club. Come on up.
That's right.
Come on up.
How are you?
I'm
Good
good.
to see you. Oh, go around that
Good to
side.
see you.
How are you doing?
Good.
Tell people over there. I feel like I'm tiring of everybody.
I know the feeling. I know. All right, so this proclamation reads, whereas the General Federation of Women's Clubs, Tempe Women's Club, founded in 1912, is an organization of women and men who have the common goal of making their community a better place by enhancing the lives of others through volunteer service. And whereas GFWC Tempe Women's Club has played a role in efforts to advocate for the physical and emotional well-being of children by ensuring that children are protected from harmful situations, by encouraging healthy and physical and emotional lifestyles for families, and impacting policy to improve children's lives. And whereas over the past 130 years, millions of GFWC club women have given their time, talent, and resources to improve the lives of children, including members in the GFWC Tempe Women's Club. And whereas GFWC Tempe Women's Club will celebrate its dedication to the awareness and promotion of the physical and emotional well-being of children. Now, therefore, I, Corey Woods, Mayor of the City of Tempe, Arizona, do hereby declare October 20th through 26th as Advocates for Children Week in Tempe, Arizona. Who wants to clear? There we go. Perfect.
Hi, Arlene.
All right, big smiles, everyone. 1, 2, 3. And then one more like that.
Thank you. Good to see you.
That you join the club like everyone else. You got to be a member.
Thank you, my dear. We'll see you later. You're trying to get to be a member already.
Thank you.
All right, I've got one more announcement, but I'm going to wait till the end of the meeting to do that one. So I will come back. I should also ask, Madam City Manager, any announcements this evening?
No announcement this evening, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you so much. That brings us to item number 3, which is call to the audience. The City Council welcomes public comment at this time for the issue review session and committee of the whole items on this work study session agenda. There is a 3-minute time limit per speaker. Madam Clerk, do we have any cards this evening?
I've not received any.
Okay, so I will go ahead and close that portion of the meeting. And I'll turn to item number 4, issue review session. Item 4A, 2025/2026 federal principles, and I'm going to bring forward Jonathan Sheffield, who's our Government Relations Director. I should also note that our federal lobbyist for the city, Maria Triplar, is going to be participating virtually this evening. But Mr. Sheffield, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, and members of the council for the chance to present our federal and state legislative principles. As the mayor mentioned, I'm Jonathan Sheffield, and I'm the city's Government Relations Director. Before I get into the details of the document and some of the changes that have been made, I want to give Maria Triplar, our DC representative, an opportunity to give us a quick update on what's going on in Washington. So Maria, if you're ready to go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you, Mayor and City Council, for having me join you for this meeting. I'd also like to take a moment and acknowledge my colleagues from Ballard Spar on the government relations team who work closely with me on behalf of the City of Tempe, Tim Jenkins and Ken Jaron. And before we touch on our federal policy agenda, I'd like to briefly address the current political landscape and how it may impact the city's priorities. Following next month's election, one of Congress's first orders of business will be to complete the appropriations process. As you all know, both the House and Senate have been in recess since the end of September and will remain so until the week after the election in November. Once both chambers return on November 12th, they are only scheduled for a total of 5 more legislative weeks before the end of the 118th Congress, which will conclude on January 3rd, 2025. There is a great deal of work to be done this year, including passing appropriations legislation that would fund the federal government for FY25. In September, Congress passed stopgap funding called a continuing resolution, or CR, to avoid a federal government shutdown. The CR extends FY25 funding for all 12 annual spending bills, including Labor, Health, and Human Services, the Education Bill, and many more important agency fundings through December 20th. The House Committee on Appropriations has approved all 12 of the annual appropriations bills for FY25, and the full House has passed 5 of the 12 so far. Those are the Defense Bill, Homeland Security, Interior Environment, MILCON VA, and State Foreign Operations. However, none of the 5 bills that have passed the Republican-led House so far are expected to pass in the Democrat-controlled Senate as they currently exist, because they all passed the House on a party line vote. And what that means for our purposes is there are certain provisions within those bills that have made them unacceptable to the Democrats within the Senate. And the Senate Committee on Appropriations, which has approved all but one of the 12 bills, the Homeland Security one, has not yet started floor consideration on any of the bills. Once Congress does return in November, it is expected, and some may say hoped, that the chambers will begin meaningful work towards completing the regular appropriations process. I am closely watching the appropriations process and monitoring the application submitted by the City of Tempe for community project funding requests, which have historically been known as earmarks. And I will touch a little bit more in depth on those applications in just a few minutes. But I wanted to also address other pieces of legislation that we can expect to be discussed and hopefully passed within the lame duck session, which is that period between the election and the start of a new Congress. Some of the must-pass pieces of legislation include the annual National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, and reauthorizing certain expiring healthcare authorities, including those for community health centers, National Health Service Corps, the teaching health centers with graduate medical education, and certain special diabetes programs. Additionally, some provisions of the Farm Bill, which has already been extended for a year past its expiration date in 2023, did expire on September 30th. The Farm Bill will need to see congressional action before the end of the calendar year, or there will be dramatic consequences with the start of a new crop year in January, specifically an automatic reversion of sending crop supports back to policy that dates to 1938 and 1949 Farm Bills. According to the Congressional Research Service, these policies are inconsistent with modern farming practices and international trade agreements and would be disastrous for the federal government and our budget. The key dispute over the Farm Bill for Democrats this year is a funding calculation that would place limits on the Thrifty Food Plan formula that calculates benefits for a supplemental nutrition assistance program called SNAP. It would keep SNAP payments at current levels, but place a permanent freeze on the ability of future presidents to raise levels of food support. Democrats have characterized it as a sneaky cut to vital support for hungry Americans that makes the bill dead on arrival. And some say that Republicans are using the limits as part of a funding calculation to offset other spending in the bill. But of course, as with all things in DC lately, the ability to make something partisan is extremely challenging. And unfortunately for the Farm Bill, we are now over a year past due, and it could extend longer, as I mentioned previously. The bill would raise price supports for some crops like cotton, peanuts, and rice. Additional legislation that may be considered during the lame duck include the Water Resources Development Act, WRDA, which is extremely important to the city, legislation to increase transparency for pharmacy benefits managers, PBMs, to reduce overall healthcare costs, online safety, data privacy, artificial intelligence, permitting reform, and several others. Those are not considered in the same category as must do, but I am hopeful that in particular, the WRDA legislation will be considered prior to the end of the calendar year. Regarding federal funding for the city specifically, thanks to Congressman Stanton, we've had success over the past several appropriation cycle of getting Tempe projects funding. This cycle, Congressman Stanton submitted 5 requests on our behalf, which have moved forward in the House process. These include the North Tempe Affordable Housing Revitalization, the Grand Canal Connection construction, University Underpass construction, and critical components of the Kyrene Reclamation Facility, including Recharge Well 4 and the Kyrene Recharge Well pipelines. The requests, respectively, would assist with the redevelopment of a motel located in North Tempe into permanently affordable multifamily housing, construction of a grade-separated crossing at one of the highest pedestrian volume intersections in the city of Tempe, and for construction of bike and pedestrian improvements, providing for the direct and continuous connection of 3 regional off-street paths that all converge in Tempe. 2 of these requests would assist with the construction of Recharge Well pipelines and equipping and construction of Recharge Well 4 as part of the larger Kyrene reclamation facilities and improvements projects. As pertains to the policy agenda, I would like to touch on just a couple of elements specifically. One is that I have worked very closely with city staff and the council and the mayor, of course, to ensure that the city is availing itself of all opportunities to leverage federal funds to advance improvements for residents. This year, Tempe applied for the 2024 RAISE program funding for 3 interlined projects: design and construction of the upstream dam, bike, and pedestrian bridge in North Bank Path, design and construction of a grade-separated bike and pedestrian bridge, over the Union Pacific Railroad facility, and design and construction of approximately 4 miles of active transportation corridor. I was pleased to work with the city and Senators Kelly and Sinema, as well as Representative Stanton, to ensure the Department of Transportation was well aware of the federal congressional delegation's support for the grant application, and I'm pleased that the city's application was accompanied by formal letters of support. These monies would address design and construction of the upstream dam, bike, and pedestrian bridge in Rio Salado North Bank Path, and a grade-separated bike and pedestrian bridge over the Union Pacific Railroad facility in central Tempe. Lastly, many of our federal principles align closely with the advocacy agendas of the U.S. Conference of Mayors and National League of Cities, and we work closely with both organizations on outreach to Capitol Hill and federal agencies. The leadership roles and level of engagement undertaken by many of you with these organizations provides a great opportunity to highlight the city's priorities on the national stage, especially with the current administration. This concludes my presentation, and I'm pleased to answer any questions that you or the public may have.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Maria. Really appreciate the presentation. Council members, any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you again. I'm going to go then back to Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council, and thank you, Maria, for your help today and for all the work that you do representing Tempe and Washington, D.C. Now to discuss a little bit of the detail on the principals documents. I want to say thank you first to the department directors, city staff, the mayor and council, and your staff for what you contributed to this and for offering information that can really help us to beef up the points that we're trying to make. First, on the federal principles, really these retain the vast majority of what we've had as our principles in past years. Most of the edits that I made to the document are going to be making the language more succinct and updating a few items as well. But we do have a couple of items that I wanted to point out to you. First, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. I put language in there showing that it's set to expire here in a couple of years and that we would support a reauthorization of that or something similar. Similarly, the document called for the reauthorization of the FAA, which occurred a few months ago. So I deleted that reference, and then I removed a reference to the Housing is Critical Infrastructure Act, which is legislation that wasn't even brought up in this past Congress. So really just more updates and making the language more succinct and tightening it down a bit. But I'm happy to take any questions on the federal side before I move into the state.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Councilmember Amber?
Yeah, one quick question. On the second page under the Human Services section where you got the Community Development Block Grant Program, when I think of that program, I think of TCC and agency review, and the paragraph that you have describing it really doesn't reflect that. You talk about public infrastructure, housing rehab, construction, job creation, and retention, and that's not really what TCC does.
Okay.
So I didn't know if that was something we could possibly look at.
Sure. I'll make a note of that and I can update it. Happy to.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Anyone else? Any other comments or questions for Jonathan on item 4A? Okay, seeing none, I guess we'll turn to item 4B, 2025 state legislative principles, and you also look like Jonathan Sheffield, so.
Looks can be deceiving, Mayor. So, yes, Mayor and members of the council, the state legislative principles similarly are reflective of what we've put together in the past, but there are a few clarifications that I want to highlight. First, the Proposition 400 language, I changed that to reflect Prop 479, pending the result of the election next month, because that's obviously the next phase in our regional transportation and infrastructure planning. Next, there is, I included specific language calling for the state legislature to allow cities to utilize tax increment financing and inclusionary zoning authorities. Both of these were resolutions that the mayor sponsored at the league conference back in August and were passed unanimously. Furthermore, there is language specifying that the legislature should allow municipalities to collect residential rental taxes, which will be stopped on January 1st. And then also I included language to change from just affordable housing to refer to affordable and workforce housing, because we want to make sure that folks that are working in our communities also have a place to live here. But again, otherwise, most of these principles are going to look very similar to what we've put together in the past. And so with that, I'm happy to take more questions.
All right, sounds good. Thank you again. Council members, any comments or questions on item 4B? Vice Mayor Garland?
I was going to say thank you for meeting with me in advance to discuss some of these. The questions I had, you've already answered, but I appreciate all the work that went into this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. All right, the next item on the agenda is the call to the audience for committee of the whole items. So there are no items listed on this section of the agenda for council consideration this evening. So I will close that item and move on to the next one, which is item number 6, committee of the whole. Council members, any requests for new council subcommittees at this time? Mayor. Yes, Councilmember Keating?
Mayor, I just had a question about that process. It used to be we had to have a cow memo to start a working group. Is that process formalized, or is it just now we just kind of ask you guys?
Madam City Manager?
A simple request at the council meeting.
Excellent.
That's fine, yeah.
That's much easier,
Cut down on
isn't it?
paperwork. How
Yeah,
about
right.
that?
It's very environmental, so I appreciate that. I do have some, Mayor, but I'm not prepared to speak on them at this moment, so I'll get you next time.
You got it. Sounds
Thank
good. Perfect. Thank you. Anyone else? Any other requests for new council subcommittees at this time? Okay, hearing none. I'll move on to item 6B. Council subcommittee status, updates and recommendations for council direction. Council members, any verbal updates you'd like to provide on any council subcommittees? Vice Mayor Garland?
I just want to say that we had our first meeting for the Nuisance Ordinance Committee this past week. Our next meeting will be November 22nd. You can look for the information on the calendar. If you would like to join us, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Anything else on item 6B from any council members? All right, seeing none, I will close that agenda item as well and move to item number 7, which is future agenda items. Members of the City Council may request that an agenda item be added to a future issue review session, but in accordance with the open meeting law, there should be no discussion on the item other than to clarify the request. Would any council members like to add an agenda item to a future issue review session? All right, seeing none, I'll close that item as well. And I'm going to go back here to item 2B, which actually is our last item this evening, which is the introduction of Tempe Sister Cities delegates. So a little bit of background for the audience here and for those watching at home. Founded by local leaders back in 1971, Tempe Sister Cities is a local nonprofit community organization that coordinates a student exchange program for our Tempe high school students. In addition to the student exchanges, they also coordinate an educator and professional exchange program. Tempe Sister Cities promotes international goodwill, cultural understanding, and encourages citizen diplomacy. This weekend's Tempe Oktoberfest is an annual fundraiser for this organization, and everyone is encouraged to attend. So Tempe currently has 11 sister cities around the world: Skopje, North Macedonia; Regensburg, Germany; Lower Hutt, New Zealand; Shenzhen, China; Timbuktu, Mali; Bol-Usarmar, France; Carlo, Ireland; Cuenca, Ecuador; Cusco, Peru; Trollhättan, Sweden; and Agra City, India. So tonight we have several guests from a few of our sister cities joining us. They serve their respective cities in leadership roles on their councils. So I'd now like to invite everyone who's here as a delegate to join the council up front for a photo.
Nice to see you again. This one's going to Ireland.
All right, everybody, big smiles. Ready? 1, 2, 3. We'll do a couple this way. Okay, my turn now. Ready? All right, big smiles, everyone. 1, 2, 3. More like that. Don't blink. 1, 2, 3.
As soon as you say that, I blink.
That's why I say.
You say it and then wait. Do you have another microphone?
I do. Yeah.
So council, we can return to our seats and we'll let these delegates stay down here.
I think I shook your hand.
All right. So I want to now turn the microphone over to Fintan Phelan, who's the mayor of Carlo, to say a few words on behalf of our guests.
Thank you, Mayor Woods. Council, thank you very much for the invitation to speak with you. Very briefly, I know you have a busy day and busy schedules as council members and as staff, but as Mayor of Carlo, on behalf of Carlo and indeed on behalf of all of our sister cities delegates that are here in Tempe, can I say thank you for the very warm welcome that you've given us, that you always give to our sister city delegates here in Tempe. Where I'm from is a town called Carlo. It's in the southeast of Ireland, about an hour south of Dublin. And one of the things we have, a new aspect in the past year, has been a new university, the Southeast Technological University. And it's been very insightful for us to link in with Arizona State University and hopefully can develop more programs and more friendships there between ASU and SETU as well. The Sister Cities organisation here in Tempe doesn't just happen by luck or by chance. It happens over many years of hard work and dedication by local volunteers here in Tempe. And I want to in particular acknowledge David, the president of Tempe Sister Cities, and his entire team for the work that they do. Their motto is bringing people together one friendship at a time, bringing the world together one friendship at a time, and they hold true to that, whether it be on student exchange, whether it be on professional exchanges, or whether it be in cooperation with council members. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity tomorrow with Trollhättan, Regensburg and ourselves, and indeed yourself, Mayor Woods, and council members, to engage on various issues that affect all of our communities. And there'll be similarities, and there'll be areas that we can learn from one another. And I think that's critically important. So we're looking forward to that. And can I thank you for your time, Mayor, for your dedication to your city, and indeed to the rest of your council members for their dedication. And thank you, and enjoy the rest of the meeting and the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Greatly appreciated, and thank you to all of the delegates as well as President Carrera and all the folks from Tempe Sister Cities who have put this together. We really appreciate all of your involvement in the things that you do on behalf of our city. And I know one of our council members, Councilmember Arlene Chin, is a board member for Tempe Sister Cities, so thank you for all of your efforts as well. That brings me to item number 8, which is adjournment. The next scheduled work study session is going to be on November 19th, 2024. We are adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening.